Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks and this is Retirement Rescue. Well, people are really stressed right now. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. Everybody is. Over money, over rising prices, over gas prices, over inflation, just everything. And one of the things I did was this last week or so is I kind of reviewed things that other channels were doing about the recession. And you know, a lot of them are talking about how to survive a recession, but then all they talk about is investments. And I'm not saying that's bad, but most of us are stressed about the price of the grocery store, what we're putting in our gas tank, our utilities. That's what we're stressed about, those everyday expenses. That is what's really got us all worried. And so I put together a short little list of ways you can right now today start saving money and developing habits that are going to get you through these rougher times. Now, some of these we've talked about in the past, but it wasn't in the environment of a recession. Things are different now. And we all know they're different. No matter what you hear on the news or TV, we know things are different now. And we have to approach things a little bit differently. So let's talk about the first item, and that is your habits. We all develop habits of how we shop, of how we buy things, of where we go and what we do. These are just ingrained habits we have created ourselves for our own lives over the course of time. And when things change, like they have so drastically here in the past year and a half, a lot of times our habits don't change with them or not quickly enough. So let's talk about a few habits and a few areas you can look at to see if you can change those faster. The faster you change those habits that are draining your funds, the more money you're going to have. Now, of course, some of the most obvious habits are when we shop at the grocery store. We tend to switch when things get expensive from pricey brands to generic brands. We go from shopping at Target to the dollar store. And actually, these are good things. These are good ways for you to save money. The same item at your grocery store might be half the price or 2/3 the price at the dollar store, and you never really shop for it there because it wasn't your habit. But let's start creating those habits. Start checking those prices. Start shopping around. And I'm going to give you one example. It's kind of an extreme example, but it's one that kind of hit me this week. I stopped buying the pre-made coffee creamers. Honestly, they just got too expensive, and it's kind of ridiculous because they're full of chemicals. But you know, hey, that was my habit, so I did. Well, I stopped doing that, and now I use a little bit of cream, and I love turbinado sugar or stevia. And I switch them back and forth because I try not to eat too much sugar. But the turbinado sugar, I was out of my little box, my little 2-pound box, so I was just going to run down to the grocery store and buy a box. Here was what it cost at my local grocery store. Over $7. It just blew my mind. It was that expensive. But yet, if I look it up on Amazon, it's less than $3. It's $2.79. So I switched my habit of just running down to the grocery store to first looking online. Is it cheaper at Walmart? Is it cheaper? Because I do have a Walmart, but it's 20 miles away. And with gas prices like they are, I don't make that trip very often. So it was cheaper and easier just to order it on Amazon. So that's what I mean about looking at our habits, looking at what we do, and changing some of those in ways that are really meaningful. That one purchase was $5 in savings. $5 just for one item. And that, which is ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. But that is happening everywhere. The pricing is all over the place. When you go into one place, it's really expensive. You go to another place, it's really cheap. This could be bread flour, it could be sugar, it could be whatever. So you really have to pay attention because inflation doesn't affect every retailer in the same way. I'm sure you've heard here recently about Target and some of the other stores. They had too much inventory, so they were selling things really cheap. Great opportunity to go buy extra things on the cheap while you can, because prices aren't going down, and eventually those prices will return to normal. But Everywhere is different pricing. Every chain, depending on their contracts for food and what they sell, they could have completely different pricing. So pay attention to that and revise those shopping habits to save you money. As we switch from name brand things to generic, we also switch out more expensive items for cheaper. Instead of eating steak and roast, we eat more ground beef. Instead of eating more meat, we eat more vegetables. This is the normal way we handle that variance in food cost. When meat gets really expensive, we eat less of it. When gas gets really expensive, we use less of it. That is a normal human behavior. But if you go ahead and adopt those behaviors, stop buying the more expensive things, switch it out for something less expensive, you do yourself a lot of favors. And while we're talking about gas prices, it's really important, and we have talked about this before, to combine your errands, combine everything you're doing, so you're not making one trip for one thing or one trip for another thing. You're really being conscious of conserving that gas and waiting till you have several errands to run before you go make a trip. That is just, when you think about it, it's just common sense. But here again, a lot of times our habit is, oh, I need this. So we hop in the car and we go fetch it. And then we get back and, oh, I need this. We hop in the car and we go fetch it. Well, that ends up costing you a lot of money in the long run. So part of this is just being really conscious, being really aware that every time you hop in that car and go make one trip, it's costing you. So combine all of those errands, combine all those things you have to do, maybe carpool with a friend, do those sorts of things that are really going to cut down your costs on fuel. And when we're talking about our habits, y'all know I'm going to mention this, stop retail therapy. Stop buying things you don't need. Stop going to the dollar store and getting 1 or 2 things you need and 15 things you don't. Really pay attention to what you need. Before you go shop for groceries, inventory your food that you already have in your cabinets. Is there spaghetti stuck in the back that you didn't even know you had? Are there cans of things you could be using that you don't need to rebuy at the store? Make sure you only buy what you need. And get those things that are reusable. Go to hand towels instead of paper towels. Real plates instead of paper plates. A lot of things we do for convenience, we don't need to do all the time, especially at home. Now I understand if you're having a picnic in the park, absolutely paper plates. That's the only thing that makes sense. But when you're at home, sometimes these habits, especially for those of us who are single or you're just 2 people, you think, oh, I don't want to mess up a couple of dishes for just 1 person or 2 people. Well, that's a lot cheaper than spending money for all the paper products. So really pay attention to what you're doing for convenience. See if there are ways you can combine things. I've got to where I only cook like 2 or 3 days a week, and then I have leftovers, which is kind of my normal habit, but I'm really conscious of doing it now. So those are just a few ways that you can change your habits. Now let's move on to the second part. Buy used. Get things that are used. Furniture, building materials, anything that you can buy that's already used. You don't need new. Appliances are a big one. I can't tell you how many times I see appliances for sale online on a Facebook group because those people have just bought new appliances. Their old appliances work. They're just wanting to get rid of them. And they're really inexpensive. And during a recession, you want something that works. You don't need the top of the line. So just be aware, especially if an appliance is only a few years old, it's probably still going to be pretty energy efficient. Some of the ones that are 10 or 15 years old, yes, I understand they're not energy efficient. But if someone's getting rid of something that's only a few years old, it's still going to be pretty energy efficient. So, buy used. Get things used. Don't think you have to have new everything. You don't. And especially in a recession, you don't have to have new everything. And this also applies to vehicles. You don't need a new vehicle to bop around in. Vehicles are very expensive, even used ones now, very expensive. So if you have one you can drive it till the wheels fall off. And that whole, I need something reliable, isn't a good argument. Mechanics will tell you many of the vehicles, the vast majority of the vehicles they work on are less than 5 years old. Older vehicles, I hate to say it, seem to have been built a little bit better. If you have one, as I do, drive it till the wheels fall off. Pay off that vehicle. Mine's paid for. And let me tell you, that is a huge expense that I save every month by not having a car payment. I still have my insurance. I still have to put gas in it. But I'm very aware how much I'm saving by not having a car payment just because I might want a new vehicle. I don't need a new vehicle. Mine's great. If you've got a serviceable vehicle and doesn't have tremendous problems, keep driving it. Keep driving it. You'll save lots of money in the long run. And the last one I'm going to talk about on this video is do more yourself. We get in the habit a lot of times of paying for services. We pay to get our lawn mowed or fertilized or thatched. We pay to get our house cleaned, which I love. We pay for a lot of things that are just convenience. How many of those things can you do yourself? What small repairs can you do yourself? What small things around the house and garden and yard can you do yourself that you're just not doing? Now's the time to start taking on some of those. And I'm not saying go buy a lot of equipment. Trade with friends. If you have a friend that can come mow the yard and you can house sit for them while they're gone, something like that, barter, trade. If you have a garden or you cook or you can, trade your things, your garden things, your canning things, whatever you do, see if you can trade someone for a service. Dog sitting is a big one. House sitting is a big one. It's great to trade for those things. You tend to get a whole lot more value than you would if you paid for it. And by doing more things yourself, you're not paying people to come to your house. Because let me tell you what, service people prices, that hourly rate you're paying to plumbers, electricians, handymen, is all going up too. All their expenses are going up. That's not going to get cheaper. Lawn mowing services, because of the price of fuel, and of course the price of labor, those prices are going to go up tremendously. They already are. Do more yourself. When you do more for yourself, by yourself, you develop habits that are really going to save you more money long term. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click subscribe and share with your friends, and I'll see you next time.